National Party says the government is wrong to put its no-fees tertiary policy ahead of better pay and conditions for primary and secondary school teachers. It says the free fees policy for tertiary students costs about $2.8 billion and is not value for money. And meanwhile, schools and the public are facing extensive disruption through potential industrial action. Well, Nikki Kaye is National's education spokesperson and, of course, former minister. She is in the Auckland studio with me now. Tēnā koe, good morning to you.
Tēnā koe, good morning.
Now, what is your assessment or your view about this double whammy, effectively, that the government is facing with potential strike action from both primary and secondary school teachers?
Well, look, I've been at the PPTA conference and I was at the NZEI dinner on Sunday. It is pretty likely, in my view, that there will be disruption via strikes unless the government can step up their offer. And I think the thing that people should understand, I mean, look, everybody will say, well, you know, could National have done more? And we've said, well, we didn't have a secret pot of cash. We had pretty extraordinary circumstances with the Canterbury earthquakes and the global financial recession. But I think there is a sense on the ground with teachers that now has been their time and that the government has prioritised other areas like tertiary students or foreign affairs and diplomats.
Are you seriously saying that you would transfer the money, though, from a free fees scheme over to teachers?
Well, National hasn't made that decision, but what we are saying is that every government has choices and there are large pots of cash. Let me just put it in perspective for you, Guyon. $2.8 billion. The actual secondary offer is about $250 million. I mean, that's 10% of the tertiary student offer. So whether it's a component of the tertiary students' fees free.
Yeah, and that's interesting analysis. So the question comes, having been in receipt of that analysis,
yes.
Would you pledge to do that? Would you pledge to take and cancel the free fees policy?
Well,
would you do that?
Well, I mean, we've got to make that call as a party, but I think it is about, we will have to demonstrate, and we are coming out with an education discussion paper next year, how we would pay for additional things like special education coordinators.
And that is one potential, is it, to dip into the pot of the free fees? It's a big call politically, isn't it?
Well, it is one potential, but there are other areas, like we have $900 million in terms of foreign affairs, that we could look at. But also the other question is, the government isn't being transparent about the books. We know there are billions of dollars extra cash that are there that they could dip into, but the reality is they won't even tell NZEI and PPTA the exact cost breakdown of this offer. So the government does have other funds now. It's not even about cancelling, but they won't be transparent about that.
So are you saying that the extra $900 million, which was for diplomats, but also for foreign aid into the Pacific,
Yep.
Again, is that a potential pool of money that a national-led government would give to teachers?
Well,
because you can't have it both ways, can you?
Well, I absolutely agree. You can't have it both ways. But my point is that there is actually other money there without even cancelling some of those initiatives.
Are you talking about the budget surpluses which are projected?
That's exactly right. So we know that, but the reality is Grant Robertson isn't telling us what the allocation is for public sector pay.
So would you give the teachers more than
yes,
what?
Yes, I would. But
can you tell us by how much?
Well, I can tell you that and I am saying very publicly, that in the area of special education coordinators, because it's not just about pay, it's some of these workload issues, and we would support additional funding for special education coordinators. We also confirmed in June of this year that we would support reducing class sizes, so reducing teacher ratios.
Yeah, we haven't had a number on what that would actually be, though.
Yes, and the reason we haven't had a number is because there are teacher shortages at the moment, Guyon. So in order to be able to give that number, and that's why we've said, look, we'll give that detail next year, you have to be able to demonstrate you're going to be able to provide those teachers.
So would you meet the demands that have been made by the unions representing these teachers?
Well, what I've said very publicly is we would commit to additional SENCO report, which is special education support. We would commit to reducing teacher ratios, and we do think that there should be more pay for teachers. Now, where that number lands, at the moment, the government's offering 3 on 3 on 3 over 3 years.
And you reckon that's what? How would you characterise that? Is that a miserable offer, or is it a modest offer?
it's okay, but the reality is you have to look at the backdrop of the fact there are teacher shortages at the moment, and there is a sense in the profession that they did wait for the Canterbury earthquakes and the global financial recession.
They waited for 9 years with respect under you, didn't they?
Well, they did have about, on average, 17%, and we increased
over what time?
Over a 9-year period, but we increased the education budget.
That's less than 2% a year.
But as you know, it's about the circumstances in the hand that you're dealt. We had the global financial recession and the Canterbury earthquakes. In that time, we increased the education budget every year that we were in office. But I absolutely acknowledge now teachers are saying there's billions of dollars more cash, and this is a question of priorities.
Just finally, and while you're here, I want to move to the issue of Jamie Lee Ross, and I bring this up with you because you took time off for health reasons, and you were pretty public about that. What are your observations or experiences when something like this arises?
Well, I think the first thing I say is it's that bit more difficult when you're in the public eye, because you do have a number of people that will ask multiple questions or infer things. So I think it's really important to be respectful and sensitive of him at this time. My thoughts and my heart goes out to Jamie Lee and his family.
Yeah. You were quite public about what it is you were dealing with. Is that the best course of action? Because otherwise you're going to get speculation, or is it different for different people and people have the right to choose what they tell people, regardless of whether they're in the public eye? What's your view on that?
Well, look, I think MPs in that sense, there will be many different members of the public that have dealt with particular health issues, and everybody's different. And I think we need to be really respectful of how people deal with it. They'll be dealing with their own family. They'll be, he'll be taking multiple things into account, and I just hope that people can be respectful of that.
Thanks very much for your time on both those issues. Nikki Kaye there, who's education spokesperson, and also talking briefly there about her colleague Jamie Lee Ross. It's 8:18 now.
And to Auckland, where the suburban rail network is getting nearly $8 million to